Have you ever asked yourself why, despite all your effort, life still feels like it is moving around you instead of with you? Why some men rise with a quiet certainty, their will unshakable, while others drift in restless chaos, chasing dreams that vanish like smoke before their eyes? This is the threshold of power, the silent battlefield of the mind, where desire and discipline collide, where ambition meets the unyielding wall of reality. You are standing there now at that invisible edge, staring into the vast unknown of your potential. The question is not whether you can succeed. It is whether you can master yourself before you reach for the world. Most people wake and breathe without thought, their morning's empty rituals of distraction, a hurried cup of coffee, a mind already tethered to yesterday's failures and tomorrow's anxieties. But what if there were a single act, one deliberate morning practice, that could anchor your mind, sharpen your focus, ignite your desire, and align your very soul with the mechanics of success? A practice that does not merely chase fleeting motivation, but implants a permanent architecture of victory within you. Napoleon Hill called it the cultivation of definiteness of purpose, the conscious design of the mind's willpower. The Stoics called it the surrender of impulse to reason, the mastery of emotion through understanding. When fused, these forces create a mind that is unshakable, a spirit that is relentless, a presence in life that moves through chaos like water cutting through stone. Imagine for a moment the stillness of the early morning. The world is silent, the air heavy with possibility, the faint light of dawn brushing the edges of your room. In that silence lies a door, the door to your mind untainted by distraction, unpolluted by the ceaseless noise of triviality. To step through it is to step into your own command center. Here, in the solitude of conscious awakening, begins the practice that separates those who achieve from those who merely hope. Here begins the one thing that, done daily with precision, transforms desire into reality and thought into action. This is not theory. This is the quiet war waged inside every man who has ever achieved greatness. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the minds of extraordinary individuals, the titans of industry, the architects of empires, the unseen forces behind the world's wealth. He discovered a singular principle. The mind must be trained to see its desire as a certainty, to feel it as inevitable, to command it as though it were already realized. Yet desire alone is chaos without discipline. The Stoics understood this intimately. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the need to guard one's mind, to bend it neither to fear nor to whim, to accept what cannot be changed and focus only on what can. This is the alchemy of morning mastery, desire tempered by reason, ambition anchored by calm. When you wake each morning and commit to this singular transformative practice, you are planting the seed of your future in the fertile soil of your present. This act is deceptively simple. It may take 10 minutes, 15, half an hour. The duration is irrelevant. The power lies in the ritualized discipline of intentional thought and emotional clarity. You sit, breathe, observe the mind's turbulence, and then begin to align your consciousness with the reality you intend to create. Every thought, every word spoken to yourself, every mental image becomes a deliberate tool in shaping your destiny. You are no longer a passive witness to life's currents. You are their architect. Consider the mind like a forge, raw thought and emotion as the molten iron. Left unattended, it cools in jagged, useless shapes. Struck with precision and repetition, it becomes a blade of unparalleled sharpness. This is the essence of the morning practice, mental discipline through visualization, affirmation, and the careful construction of emotional and rational alignment. First, you visualize with unrelenting clarity the exact outcome you desire. Not a vague hope, not a half-hearted wish, but a vivid living scene. Your goal fully realized, every detail present, every sensation accounted for. See it, hear it, feel it. Live it in your mind as though it already exists. Napoleon Hill called this the definite chief aim. The Stoics would nod silently, recognizing that by commanding your inner perception, you command the outer world more effectively than through frantic action alone. Next comes affirmation, the conscious repetition of intention into the subconscious. Words have power far beyond their casual utterance. When spoken with emotion, conviction, and belief, they shape neural pathways, conditioning your mind to expect success, to reject doubt, to act in alignment with your higher self. The Stoic adds a refinement, not with desperate clinging or attachment, but with detached certainty. You declare your intention and then you release it, not to fate, not to luck, but to the disciplined operation of mind and action. Desire is fire, reason is the vessel. Together they burn without consuming, forge without bending. Finally, you must confront your emotions. Most men begin their day reacting to fear, to anxiety, to the trivial disturbances that set their energy off course. The Stoic teaches that emotions are shadows of thought, and by mastering the interpretation of those shadows, you achieve freedom. In the morning, before the day imposes its chaos, observe your internal state. Acknowledge any unrest, any fear, any lingering frustration, and choose to release it. Anchor yourself in calm purpose. Accept reality as it is, not as it should be. Then align your will with action, deliberate, focused, relentless action. Every great mind you study, whether Hill's industrial giants or the Stoic philosophers of antiquity, exercised this union of imagination and control. Andrew Carnegie envisioned steel empires. He disciplined his mind daily to see them into existence. Marcus Aurelius, facing plague, rebellion, and death, disciplined his mind daily to act with virtue and clarity. The fusion of these disciplines is astonishing in its simplicity and terrifying in its power. The ordinary man may pass his mornings in sleep or distraction. The extraordinary man treats the morning as a sacred temple, a proving ground, a battlefield where his mind wins before the world challenges him. It is not just about wealth, it is about unshakable presence, the cultivation of inner strength so profound that external chaos cannot disturb it. Desire becomes deliberate, emotion becomes an instrument, thought becomes a weapon, and the mind becomes sovereign. The one morning act that unlocks this is deceptively simple because it requires no external tools, no money, no permission. It requires only discipline, clarity, and unwavering intent. You may resist the simplicity because simplicity demands consistency, and consistency demands courage. Most men look for shortcuts, hacks, or external catalysts when the real transformation is internal, invisible, and profoundly disciplined. To perform this act daily is to reprogram the mind's very architecture, to reshape reality itself, to command both fate and fortune through the fusion of Hill's metaphysical insight and Stoic mastery of emotion. The power lies not in doing something extraordinary, but in doing the right thing relentlessly, with full consciousness, each morning before the world has begun its assault on your mind. Picture the life of a man who has mastered this. Mornings deliberate, desire aligned, emotions disciplined, vision clear, action inevitable. He does not chase opportunities, he attracts them. He does not react to events, he shapes them. He does not fear failure, he accepts it as a teacher, a necessary refinement of purpose. Every thought is a tool, every action a deliberate stroke toward the fulfillment of his chief aim. He is calm in chaos, relentless in pursuit, detached in emotion, yet ferocious in ambition. He is unstoppable because his mind has become a fortress, his will a weapon, his vision a law. And now I ask you again, what would it mean for you to begin each day with such deliberate mastery? To step into the morning with the certainty that your mind, your desire, and your will are aligned in a sacred act of creation? What would it mean to cultivate a fire so disciplined that it burns through hesitation, distraction, and fear? This is the threshold. One morning act, performed with faith, discipline, and detachment, opens a door to a life unbound by circumstance, a life where your inner command dictates your outer reality. The question is not hypothetical. The question is immediate. Tomorrow, when the first light strikes your room, will you follow the crowd into passive distraction, or will you step into the quiet, sacred ritual of self-mastery? Will you claim the mind as your own battlefield, or will you let it be conquered by chance and chaos? The answer lies in one simple, deliberate act, repeated daily until desire, reason, and action fuse into the unstoppable force of your life. This is where the journey begins, the first spark of transformation, the initial strike in the silent war of the mind. You will awaken, breathe, focus, visualize, affirm, detach, and act. You will build a fortress of thought, a cathedral of will, a machine of manifestation. You will see the impossible as inevitable, and the ordinary as your canvas. And in that morning, that sacred moment, you will become more than a man chasing life. You will become the master of life itself. The mind is a battlefield, a landscape of light and shadow where every thought has the power to create or destroy, where every fleeting impulse can become either a chain or a key. When the dawn is still soft against the edges of your consciousness, that is the moment when the mind is most malleable, most alive, most ready to be shaped by the deliberate will. The one thing you do each morning is not a habit. It is an initiation into a higher order of being. It is a quiet covenant between your present self and the person you are destined to become. In that act, the ordinary folds away, the illusions of limitation dissolve, and the raw materials of your mind, desire, reason, imagination, and emotion, become tools of construction. Napoleon Hill spoke often of the power of definiteness of purpose, the absolute clarity of intent that transforms vague wishes into inevitable outcomes. He insisted that thought, when organized and deliberately directed, becomes a force as tangible as steel. Yet thought alone, raw and untamed, is chaos. Desire untethered becomes desperation, ambition unchecked becomes frustration. Here is where the Stoic insight enters, where reason tempers impulse, where detachment from external ticum allows your inner machinery to operate without interruption. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that life will throw chaos, injustice, and misfortune in every direction, but it is your interpretation, your focus, your mental discipline that converts these events into either poison or power. Morning is the crucible in which this fusion occurs. You sit upright, conscious, and deliberate. The body may still yearn for comfort, for delay, for distraction, but the mind is alert, observing itself like a general surveying a battlefield. First, you bring your attention inward. Observe the currents of your own thought. Notice the fear, the hesitation, the doubt. Let them surface without judgment. They are shadows, not commands. The Stoics teach that these emotions are not to be eliminated, but recognized and redirected. To resist a thought is to feed it. To observe and understand it is to dissolve its power over you. In this quiet confrontation, you are practicing mastery, not mastery over the world, but mastery over the self, the precursor to mastery over circumstance. Once the mind has been observed, it is ready to be directed. Visualization is the cornerstone of this process, but not the idle imagining of fantasy. This is precise, deliberate, vivid envisioning. You construct a scene in your mind with the intensity of reality. Every sense is engaged, the textures, the sounds, the smells, the subtle tensions of achieving what you desire. You see the outcome, but more importantly, you feel it. You experience the triumph not as a distant hope, but as an immediate truth. Napoleon Hill called this the emotionalization of desire, the process by which the subconscious mind is made to accept success as inevitable. The Stoics would nod, recognizing that the mind's interpretation of reality dictates one's experience. If you perceive the desired state as present, you begin to act as if it already exists. Emotion and reason are partners in this act. Hill emphasizes faith, the unwavering belief that what you see in your mind will manifest. The Stoics insist on detachment, the serenity to act without being enslaved by outcome. This is a paradox, a delicate balance to desire fully yet not be consumed by desire, to act relentlessly yet remain calm, to envision vividly yet maintain inner freedom. The morning ritual is the laboratory where this balance is forged. Each day you practice it, the pathways of your mind are reshaped. Neural patterns are formed, reinforcing confidence, clarity, and disciplined action. The mind, once a chaotic river, becomes a canal of directed force, unyielding and purposeful. After visualization comes affirmation, the verbal or silent declaration of your intention. Words are not merely labels, they are forces that shape consciousness. Hill taught that the subconscious mind is responsive to repetition, emotion, and belief. When you speak your purpose aloud each morning, when you internalize the certainty of your goal, you are programming your mind to recognize opportunity, to filter out distraction, to act with intentionality. Here, too, Stoicism provides guidance. Speak with precision, with calm authority, not with desperation or need. Detachment does not mean passivity. It means clarity of judgment, purity of action, and freedom from the turbulence of fear and doubt. Your words are instruments of mental architecture, chiseling the walls of your internal fortress with each repetition. But words alone are insufficient. The mind is not merely symbolic, it is kinetic. It demands engagement through disciplined focus. This is where the art of mental discipline deepens. As the morning continues, you direct attention to the tasks of the day, not reactively, but proactively, guided by the alignment of desire and reason established in your ritual. The chaotic impulses that derail ordinary men are neutralized. The trivial disturbances, the anxieties, the doubts, they are acknowledged, processed, and dismissed. You are no longer pulled into drama. You move through your day like a blade through mist, sharp, precise, unshakable. This is the essence of Stoic calm applied to Hill's principles, emotional clarity powering relentless, intelligent action. Desire, when fused with mental discipline, produces a peculiar kind of magnetism. Others will sense it without understanding it. Fortune, opportunity, and insight are drawn to a mind that is coherent, focused, and emotionally sovereign. Hill emphasized that the mind aligned with definite purpose becomes a broadcasting station of intention, attracting circumstances, people, and events in perfect resonance. The Stoics would caution not to cling to these external manifestations, but to observe them as natural consequences of a well-ordered mind. The fusion of these perspectives produces a paradoxical power. You act without attachment, yet the world bends toward your vision. Persistence, the daily refusal to succumb to inertia or distraction, is the next pillar. The mind that begins each morning with clarity, visualization, affirmation, and emotional control develops momentum. Hill called it the sustained application of effort toward a clearly defined goal. The Stoics would call it the consistent exercise of virtue and reason. Without persistence, desire remains potential, thought remains unrealized, and the mind drifts. With persistence, every day compounds upon the last, every morning strengthens the architecture of success. Every disciplined action is a brick in the fortress of achievement. It is here that most men fail, not in lacking desire, nor in dreaming, but in surrendering the mornings to chaos. The dawn is a mirror. Those who see it clearly shape the day. Those who do not are shaped by it. The deliberate morning practice is a microcosm of life itself. It is a daily confrontation with fear, distraction, and the self-imposed limitations that plague ordinary existence. The man who masters this moment becomes unstoppable, not because of luck or external advantage, but because he has built the mental and emotional machinery to navigate life's storms with precision, clarity, and relentless purpose. Consider the metaphor of the sculptor. Each morning you strike the chisel of intention against the stone of habit and thought. Each stroke may seem minor, almost imperceptible, but over time the form emerges. The sculpture is not imposed by chance. It is the result of deliberate, conscious effort guided by vision and disciplined by reason. Desire is the image in the mind. Mental discipline is the hand of the sculptor. Stoic detachment is the patience to strike without forcing, to shape without anxiety. This is how greatness is formed, in the quiet, unobserved hours of deliberate, persistent creation. The subtlety of this power is in its invisibility. To the casual observer, nothing extraordinary occurs. To the initiated mind, every morning act is a catalyst of transformation. Thoughts are aligned, emotions disciplined, actions clarified. The mind becomes a beacon, radiating focus and inevitability. Opportunities align, coincidences multiply, insights arise. Yet the practitioner does not celebrate the external results prematurely. He knows that true power lies in the internal mastery that precedes and guarantees all outward success. Hill called it faith in the unseen. The Stoics called it sovereignty over the self. Together they form the unshakable core of an unstoppable life. You must also recognize the role of imagination. Hill emphasized imagination as the workshop of the mind, the laboratory where ideas, solutions, and strategies are born. The Stoics remind us that imagination must be disciplined, applied rationally, and checked by virtue. Each morning, when the mind is clear and the spirit is anchored, imagination becomes a superpower. You see beyond circumstance. You solve problems before they arise. You anticipate challenges with calm ingenuity. Desire fuels the vision. Discipline directs it. Reason ensures it aligns with reality. This triad produces a mind capable of extraordinary manifestation, a mind that moves through life as both artist and general, shaping reality with precision and purpose. The morning ritual is thus not trivial. It is the seed of your dominion. It is a declaration to the universe, to yourself, and to fate: I am deliberate, I am disciplined, I am ready, I am aligned. This alignment does not eliminate obstacles. It allows you to face them with clarity. It does not guarantee comfort. It guarantees results. The ordinary man flees difficulty. The disciplined mind confronts it with calm authority. The habitual performance of this ritual builds resilience, courage, and creativity. It cultivates the subtle yet profound power of mental sovereignty, the power to act without being acted upon, to create without being consumed, to persist without distraction. As the sun rises, the world awakens around you. Noise, obligation, and expectation begin to press against the mind. But the fortress you have built in the early hours, the visualization, the affirmation, the emotional control, the mental discipline holds. You are not merely awake, you are alive in purpose, conscious in desire, free in thought, relentless in action. The chaos of the world cannot dictate your energy. It may only meet your focus. Others stumble, you move with inevitability. Others react, you act. Others hope, you manifest. This is the paradox of unstoppable power. It is invisible to those uninitiated, terrifying to those who have not disciplined themselves, and utterly liberating to the one who has claimed it. Each morning, repeated without fail, strengthens the neural, emotional, and spiritual pathways of success. Desire becomes clarity, emotion becomes discipline, vision becomes reality. The ritual is not merely an act. It is the construction of an identity, a new self, a force of nature capable of bending circumstance, attracting opportunity, and executing with precision. And so you awaken each day with intent. You breathe consciously, settle the mind, observe the internal land. Descape, visualize with absolute clarity, affirm with emotion tempered by reason, and prepare to meet the world as a being who is both calm and ferocious, detached yet relentless, serene yet unstoppable. This is the architecture of the mind that Napoleon Hill studied and the Stoics perfected. It is the ritual that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the distracted from the sovereign, the transient from the immortal within. The world is loud, insistent, and unrelenting, yet the truly powerful man hears nothing at all. Not because the world has gone silent, but because he has learned the discipline of selective perception. He has trained the mind to focus on what matters, to filter distraction, to ignore the petty turbulence of circumstance. This is emotional detachment, not apathy, not coldness, but a deliberate choice to anchor oneself in clarity while the currents of life rush and crash around. The Stoics knew that attachment to external outcomes is the seed of suffering. Napoleon Hill knew that attachment to weak desires, fleeting whims, or half-hearted goals is the seed of failure. The fusion is undeniable. The man who desires without clinging, who acts without frenzy, who envisions without hesitation, becomes unstoppable. Self-mastery begins here, in the quiet fortress of your morning. Every man harbors impulses, fears, desires that pull him in conflicting directions. Left unchecked, they manifest as procrastination, distraction, doubt, and emotional turbulence. Mastery is not the suppression of these forces, it is their orchestration. Like a conductor commanding an orchestra, you acknowledge each instrument, the fear, the ambition, the anger, the hope, and you make them serve a single coherent symphony, your deliberate purpose. Emotional detachment is the tool, visualization and affirmation are the instruments, the rhythm of morning discipline is the score. When performed daily, the mind learns to anticipate, direct, and harmonize its impulses. Chaos is not eliminated, it is redirected. Desire is the flame that ignites action, yet desire untamed is a wildfire, consuming and unpredictable. Discipline is the dam that channels that flame, directing its energy toward creation rather than destruction. Every morning you practice this channeling. You feel your deepest longing for achievement, wealth, mastery, or freedom, yet you do not allow it to dictate your mood, cloud your judgment, or demand instant gratification. You embrace the intensity of desire while exercising the serenity of control. This is the paradoxical strength that Napoleon Hill insisted upon and the Stoics exemplified: to burn brightly without being burned, to act fiercely without being consumed, to strive endlessly without losing peace. Imagine a man who begins his day in this state. He is conscious of his goal, intimately familiar with the texture of its realization. He has visualized it in every sense, seen it, felt it, heard it, breathed it. He has affirmed it with conviction, allowing the words to anchor themselves into his subconscious, guiding his intuition and action throughout the day. He has observed his emotions, released those that are unhelpful, and reinforced those that fuel purpose and resilience. The world may offer chaos, but he moves within it with the inevitability of a river cutting through rock. His mind is unassailable. His will is immovable. His path is clear. This is the unstoppable man. Hill taught that the subconscious mind is the great alchemist of desire. It cannot distinguish between real and imagined experience. It responds to the intensity of thought, to the clarity of intent, to the emotional conviction behind each idea. When you couple this understanding with Stoic detachment, the effect is profound. You saturate your subconscious with the certainty of success, yet you maintain freedom from obsessive fear or anxiety. You act as though your desire is inevitable, not desperate. You attract opportunity not through frantic seeking, but through the gravitational pull of a mind aligned with its purpose. This is the fusion of metaphysical law and rational philosophy, faith tempered by reason, desire guided by discipline. The mind, when trained in this way, becomes predictive, anticipatory, and decisive. Problems appear not as obstacles, but as patterns to be navigated, as challenges to be transformed into advantages. The ordinary man sees threat. The disciplined mind sees leverage. When you have mastered your mornings, you have mastered your mental environment. You do not react, you respond. You do not panic, you calculate. You do not succumb to fleeting emotion, you anchor in principle. This is the psychological architecture of unstoppable success, the internal law of attraction married to the calm mastery of self. Persistence, Hill insisted, is the engine that transforms thought into reality. Desire is fuel, discipline is ignition, persistence is the continuous application of force against resistance, and yet persistence without detachment is madness. The Stoics remind us that life is unpredictable, outcomes cannot always be controlled. What can be controlled is effort, focus, and integrity of action. By anchoring persistence in reason and detachment, every act becomes purposeful, every step becomes a deliberate advance, every obstacle becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. To act without surrendering to frustration or despair is the ultimate strength. You may feel that this discipline is rigid, that detachment is cold, that the visualization is abstract. But consider the mind as a battlefield. Left unattended, it will be overrun by distraction, doubt, and fear. Left chaotic, life itself dictates terms, and you are merely a passenger. Yet, through deliberate daily practice, visualization, affirmation, emotional discipline, and focused action. You construct a mental fortress. Desire becomes your weapon, reason becomes your shield, and detachment becomes the strategic insight that allows you to act with precision rather than impulse. Each morning you reinforce this architecture, and each day you compound its effect. The fusion of Hill and Stoicism teaches an extraordinary lesson. Success is not merely external, and calm is not merely passive. They are inseparable when mastery is achieved. Desire without calm is reckless. Calm without desire is inert. Vision without discipline is illusion. Discipline without vision is routine. The man who integrates these forces becomes something rare, a presence in the world that is both magnetic and unshakable, an engine of creation and a temple of serenity. Every encounter, every challenge, every decision radiates clarity, authority, and inevitability. Emotional detachment does not mean suppression of feeling. The Stoics' emphasis: eyes, observation, and acceptance, not annihilation. You feel the intensity of desire, the thrill of ambition, the subtle tension of opportunity, yet these emotions serve rather than control you. They are energy directed, a river harnessed, a fire contained. Hill's principle of emotionalization complements this. Feeling desire vividly conditions the subconscious, which then directs action, perception, and intuition in alignment with purpose. The morning ritual is the forge where these forces are tempered, sharpened, and harmonized. Consider the role of imagination. Hill repeatedly underscores that imagination is not fantasy. It is the laboratory of creation. Here, ideas are tested, strategies imagined, and solutions visualized before action is taken. The Stoics caution that imagination must be disciplined, aligned with reason and principle. Each morning, when your mind is alert and your emotions are settled, imagination becomes a powerful tool. You see paths others miss, anticipate problems before they arise, and recognize opportunities hidden in plain sight. The creative mind, guided by clarity and anchored in calm, becomes unstoppable in its manifestation of reality. Action follows naturally from this preparation. The morning ritual is not an end in itself. It is the foundation of deliberate, focused, and intelligent action. When the world awakens, you move through it with the certainty of one who has already won the internal battle. Challenges are met with strategy, setbacks with resilience, criticism with composure. Your actions are no longer scattered, reactive, or tentative. They are precise, intentional, and inevitable. Hill calls it the application of organized, though. The Stoics call it the exercise of reason in accordance with virtue. Together they produce results that appear miraculous to those untrained in the disciplines of mind. The psychology of success is subtle. It does not rely on external validation, luck, or fleeting inspiration. It relies on inner architecture, built through repetition, clarity, and emotional sovereignty. Hill observed this in every individual of extraordinary accomplishment. Their thoughts were organized, their desires vivid, their actions deliberate. The Stoics observed it in the few who remained calm, rational, and steadfast amidst calamity. The integration of these principles, vision, emotion, discipline, detachment, produces a mind that is both creative and impervious, ambitious yet serene, human yet elevated. Each morning, when you awaken and commit to this one transformative act, you are constructing not just a day, but a life. The mind, practiced in focus and detachment, becomes a magnet for opportunity. Desire, when combined with imagination and emotional clarity, becomes a force that moves reality. Action, when disciplined and aligned with principle, produces momentum. Challenges, once frightening, become neutralized. Obstacles become teachers. The ordinary is transformed into the extraordinary. This is why the morning ritual matters. It is the invisible architecture of mastery. Those who neglect it drift through life, subject to circumstance, prey to their untrained impulses. Those who embrace it move with inevitability, clarity, and power. Every thought is sharpened, every emotion directed, every action aligned. The subconscious mind, saturated with belief and certainty, begins to orchestrate our reality in ways subtle yet profound. The external world begins to mirror the internal alignment achieved through discipline, vision, and detachment, and so you awaken each day with a sacred task to observe, to align, to focus, to detach, to visualize, to affirm, to act. The practice is deceptively simple, yet its impact is transformative. Over weeks, months, years, it compounds. The mind becomes a fortress. The will becomes a weapon. The life becomes a masterpiece. You are no longer a passive actor in the theater of circumstance. You are the director, the architect, and the author of reality itself. There comes a moment in every man's life when doubt whispers like a shadow in the corners of thought. It is quiet at first, almost imperceptible, a hesitation, a flicker of uncertainty, a question of worth. Most men recoil, surrendering to its insidious voice, allowing it to dictate their actions, their ambition, their very state of being. But the man who masters both desire and reason, the student of Hill and the disciple of Stoicism, greets doubt as he would an old teacher, with calm observation and deliberate engagement. He does not flee, he does not panic, he studies, understands, and neutralizes it. Doubt is merely energy misaligned, a signal to recalibrate focus, to deepen persistence, to anchor belief in clarity and principle. Persistence is the crucible in which ordinary effort becomes extraordinary results. Napoleon Hill repeatedly emphasized that desire alone is insufficient. It is persistence, the relentless application of organized thought toward a definite purpose, that distinguishes the successful from the hopeful. Yet persistence without emotional control becomes frustration. Hill understood the power of faith, the absolute certainty that what you imagine can and will manifest. The Stoics remind us that attachment to outcome is the root of suffering. Action must be deliberate, not frantic, aligned with virtue, not with whim. The fusion of these truths produces a force that is quiet, unstoppable, and profoundly resilient. It is the mind prepared to face failure not as catastrophe, but as data, as insight, as refinement. Imagine the morning ritual as a rehearsal for this resilience. Each dawn you awaken and confront not only your desires, but the internal friction of fear, doubt, and indecision. You visualize your goals with vivid intensity, feeling them as real. You affirm them with conviction, embedding certainty into the subconscious mind. You observe the currents of your emotions, releasing what is unhelpful and reinforcing what is productive. Each repetition compounds strength, reshapes neural pathways, and trains the mind to persist under adversity. When the world tests you, as it invariably will, you no longer respond with panic, hesitation, or despair. You respond with aligned thought, deliberate action, and calm authority. Faith is not a naive hope. It is a disciplined certainty. Hill calls it the emotionalization of desire. The Stoics call it alignment with reason and virtue. Together, they produce a state of mind in which action and belief are inseparable. You do not simply hope for success. You see it, feel it, expect it, and act as though it is inevitable. Yet, like the Stoic, you are detached from the outcome. Failure is neither feared nor celebrated. It is merely a teacher, a natural consequence, a piece of data to refine. Strategy, adjust tactics, and deepen understanding. In this tension between faith and detachment, the mind discovers a paradoxical power, the ability to act fully without anxiety, to pursue relentlessly without desperation, to manifest without being enslaved to circumstance. Resilience is born in repetition. Each day the morning ritual is performed, the mind's architecture grows stronger, neural pathways are reinforced, emotional control becomes instinctive. Visualization and affirmation train the subconscious to anticipate success. Imagination becomes a predictive engine, problem solving before challenges arise. Persistence becomes automatic. The ordinary man must summon strength in moments of crisis. The disciplined mind is already armed, its foundation laid before the storm. In this way, resilience is not a reactive skill, it is proactive, embedded in the very structure of consciousness. Every challenge in life is a test, a mirror reflecting the depth of your mental and emotional discipline. The external world cannot grant or deny you power, it can only reveal what you already possess. When a setback occurs, the ordinary man panics, curses, and abandons effort. The disciplined mind observes, processes, adapts, and continues. Stoicism teaches that suffering is the result of misperception. The world is not inherently hostile. Our interpretation makes it so. Hill teaches that persistence in the face of apparent impossibility generates the breakthroughs that define extraordinary success. The fusion of these teachings is profound. Challenges are neither feared nor ignored. They are the raw material of mastery, the anvil upon which will and skill are forged. Consider the arc. Architecture of manifestation. Hill emphasizes clarity of purpose, definiteness of desire, and emotional conviction. Yet without disciplined reason and emotional sovereignty, this energy dissipates into fantasy, frustration, or distraction. Stoicism provides the corrective. Control your emotions, anchor your actions in reason. Accept reality as it is, not as it should be. Together, these principles transform abstract desire into concrete action. Visualization and affirmation shape the subconscious. Emotional control prevents distraction. Persistent effort aligns with opportunity. Imagination generates solutions. Detachment ensures clarity. Action produces results. The internal and external align. The desired reality begins to emerge as inevitable. Doubt will inevitably appear. Criticism will challenge you. Delay will test your patience. Chaos will intrude. Yet these are merely signals that the mind must reaffirm its alignment, recalibrate focus, and reinforce the architecture of persistence. Each morning, through ritualized practice, you preempt these intrusions. You prepare the mind to respond with calm, clarity, and deliberate force rather than reactive fear or frustration. This is the psychology of mastery, the internal fortress built before the external battle begins. Faith, visualization, emotional control, and disciplined action create a feedback loop of power. The mind begins to expect success, behavior becomes aligned with expectation, the external world responds. Hill observed this in industrial giants who visualized empires before a single steel beam was laid. The Stoics observed this in men who remained calm under siege, their virtue guiding their decisions. Both principles converge. The internal order of mind produces inevitable external results. To awaken each day and cultivate this state is to activate an invisible, unstoppable mechanism, a force of mental gravity that attracts opportunity, shapes perception, and compels action. The one morning act performed daily is deceptively simple. Sit, breathe, observe, visualize, affirm, detach, act. Each component is a pillar. Together, they construct the temple of mastery. The ordinary man sees little in this simplicity. The initiated man knows its power is absolute. Desire fuels intention, imagination directs it, affirmation anchors it, emotional discipline channels it, detachment frees it, action manifests it. Each repetition compounds strength. Each day reinforces alignment. Each challenge polishes resilience. Over weeks, months, years, the mind becomes unshakable, the will irresistible, the person unstoppable. There is no secret outside of this discipline. No hack, no shortcut, no external stimulus can replace the architecture of the mind. Hill's law of success is not a list of tactics. It is the study of mental alignment, desire, and persistent action. Stoicism is not a philosophy of resignation. It is the mastery of perception, emotion, and rational engagement with reality. The fusion is extraordinary. Desire and reason, faith and detachment, action and calm, imagination and discipline, all converging in the silent hours of the morning, forming a mind capable of extraordinary creation, resilience, and influence. Every obstacle encountered during the day becomes manageable. The uninitiated panic, the disciplined observe, the ordinary surrender to circumstance, the practiced mind adapts, leverages, and persists. Fortune is attracted, not chased. Opportunity is recognized, not ignored. Action is deliberate, precise, and persistent. Each morning's practice compounds, transforming small advantages into monumental mastery. The external world, unpredictable and indifferent, becomes a stage upon which internal alignment manifests as power. Even fear, the most primal and insidious of human emotions, is neutralized through this discipline. Observe it, acknowledge it, detach from it, and act anyway. Desire and faith fuel action. Reason guides it. Persistence enforces it. Detachment ensures clarity. Fear loses its dominion. Doubt becomes a signal, not a tyrant. Hesitation dissolves. Opportunity is seized with the inevitability of natural law. This is the psychology of success, the law of mental gravity, the unspoken principle behind every extraordinary life. The mind, once trained through this ritual, begins to operate autonomously toward mastery. Visualization seeds the subconscious with certainty. Affirmation anchors belief. Emotional discipline channels energy. Detachment preserves clarity. Persistent, deliberate action manifests results. Imagination creates solutions. Obstacles are processed rather than feared. Fortune aligns with internal order. Chaos is observed and leveraged. The individual becomes a force not defined by circumstance, but by internal sovereignty. This is the unstoppable state. A mind, a will, a life in alignment. The ordinary may view the morning as routine. The disciplined see it as a sacred battlefield. The ordinary reacts, the prepared acts. The ordinary hopes, the initiated manifests. The ordinary succumbs, the unstoppable rises. Very sunrise becomes an initiation, every morning a rehearsal, every ritual a rehearsal of sovereignty. By mastering the internal landscape of thought, emotion, and intent, you command the external world without being enslaved by it. You are no longer subject to circumstance. You are aligned with it, guiding it, shaping it, manifesting through it. There is a difference between living and existing, between reacting to life and commanding it. The ordinary man drifts, moved by circumstance, influenced by fleeting emotion, distracted by the trivial. The extraordinary man, the one who practices the sacred morning ritual, lives deliberately, consciously, as if every thought, feeling, and action is an instrument of creation. Mastery is not the suppression of impulse, but its orchestration. Desire becomes energy, imagination becomes vision, emotion becomes fuel, reason becomes guide, action becomes inevitability. Each day begins as a battlefield where these forces collide, and each day ends as a testament to the sovereignty of mind over circumstance. Self-mastery is the art of harmonizing all inner forces: fear, doubt, desire, anger, longing, hope. They are instruments, not enemies. The Stoics teach that the mind must observe, interpret, and redirect these forces with reason. Hill teaches that desire, when emotionally charged and deliberately directed, is a catalyst for manifestation. Together, these truths produce a state in which the individual is both fierce and serene, ambitious and detached, imaginative and rational. The morning ritual trains this state. It is deceptively simple. Sit, breathe, observe, visualize, affirm, detach, and act. Repetition builds architecture. Architecture builds resilience. Resilience produces inevitability, and inevitability shapes reality. Emotional control under pressure is a hallmark of mastery. The world will test you, as it will test every person who dares to awaken fully. Fear, frustration, disappointment, and provocation are constants of existence, but the mind trained through deliberate practice recognizes them as signals rather than dictators. To observe without attachment, to feel without surrender, to act without hesitation, this is the essence of Stoic composure. Hill would call it faith in the unseen and the inevitable. The fusion is potent. Desire pushes forward, emotion fuels, reason directs, detachment preserves clarity, and action becomes precise and unstoppable. Consider a moment of crisis, a failed plan, a sudden obstacle, the collapse of expectation. The ordinary man panics, lashes out, withdraws, or succumbs to despair. The disciplined mind, trained daily through visualization, affirmation, and emotional detachment, responds differently. It perceives the challenge, evaluates the variables, neutralizes fear, and executes deliberate action. Each emotional wave is observed, redirected, and transformed into fuel for strategy. The mind operates as a well-oiled instrument, producing results even when chaos surrounds. This is not luck, it is preparation. It is not reaction, it is mastery. Vision is inseparable from action. Hill repeatedly emphasized the necessity of clarity. Without a clearly defined purpose, desire is diffuse, energy is scattered, and manifestation falters. The Stoics remind us that perception shapes reality. If the mind is clouded by distraction or emotion, external circumstances will appear insurmountable. The morning ritual is the crucible in which vision is sharpened, emotion is disciplined, and purpose is clarified. Visualization is not daydreaming, it is the deliberate construction of mental reality, complete with sensory, emotional, and cognitive detail. Each morning, the mind rehearses success, programs the subconscious, and aligns intuition with deliberate action. The day becomes a continuation of this mental alignment, and life becomes a coherent expression of inner purpose. Persistence is the engine of manifestation. Hill describes it as the sustained application of organized effort toward a defined goal without regard to obstacles or temporary setbacks. The Stoics add the refinement of reason and emotional detachment. Persistence must be guided, disciplined, and intelligent. Desire alone without method leads to chaos. Reason alone without energy leads to inaction. Together they form a force that is relentless and adaptive. The morning ritual amplifies persistence. It reminds the mind daily of what is important, programs the subconscious for action, and strengthens emotional sovereignty to resist distraction. Over time, the effect compounds. Challenges that would paralyze the uninitiated become manageable, solvable, and even advantageous. The mechanics of manifestation are subtle yet precise. Desire fuels energy. Imagination generates possibilities. Visualization programs the subconscious. Affirmation embeds certainty. Emotional discipline channels focus. Detachment preserves clarity, and deliberate action produces results. Each component interacts dynamically. Energy directed without clarity dissipates. Clarity without energy is inert. Ion without emotional sovereignty is erratic. The fusion of Hill and Stoic principles ensures that every thought, feeling, and movement is aligned with purpose. The individual becomes a magnet for opportunity, a generator of solutions, and a director of circumstance. The mastery of self underpins all of this. The ordinary mind reacts, the disciplined mind observes. The ordinary mind seeks comfort. The sovereign mind embraces challenge. The ordinary mind is driven by impulse. The initiated mind is guided by principle. Emotional turbulence is inevitable, yet it is neutralized through observation, discipline, and deliberate action. Fear is transmuted into clarity, frustration into strategy, doubt into determination. Each morning the mind is trained, and each day reinforces the architecture of mastery. The individual becomes unstoppable not through luck, but through repeated internal triumphs that precede and dictate external outcomes. Imagination is not separate from reason, it is guided by it. Hill emphasizes creativity as the tool of manifestation. The Stoics emphasize rational control as the anchor of action. Each morning, when the mind is alert and emotions are disciplined, imagination becomes a predictive engine. Solutions to problems appear before they arise. Opportunities reveal themselves in subtle patterns. Strategy forms intuitively. The mind acts preemptively yet intelligently. Desire drives, reason directs, and detachment preserves clarity. The synergy is extraordinary. Action becomes inevitable, obstacles become manageable, and success emerges as a natural consequence of internal alignment. Faith and detachment are the paradoxical twin pillars of unstoppable manifestation. Faith is the unshakable belief in the reality of one's vision. Detachment is the calm awareness that the external world cannot dictate value or emotion. Together they produce a mind that acts fully, confidently, and relentlessly without being enslaved to circumstance. The morning ritual is the rehearsal of this paradox. Visualize vividly, affirm with conviction, observe and release emotions, anchor in reason, and prepare for deliberate action. Over time, the mind learns to embody this state effortlessly, and life itself becomes a mirror of internal alignment. Resilience grows in the crucible of repeated practice. Each morning, you confront your desires, fears, doubts, and distractions. Each day, you navigate challenges, setbacks, and uncertainty. The ordinary is distracted, discouraged, or reactive. The initiated absorbs, adapts, and advances. Hill emphasizes that every setback contains the seed of opportunity. The Stoics remind us that perception defines experience. The fusion is transformative. Obstacles are not feared but analyzed. Setbacks are not paralysis but recalibration. Adversity is not punishment but material for growth. The mind becomes unshakable because it has been forged in repeated internal triumphs. Consider the state of mind this creates. Every thought is deliberate, every emotion is aligned, every action is coherent. Visualization and affirmation saturate the subconscious with certainty. Imagination anticipates and solves. Desire fuels relentless energy. Detachment preserves clarity. Persistence compounds results. Obstacles are neutralized. Challenges are leveraged, and opportunity is recognized and seized. The individual is unstoppable. Not through external circumstance, but through internal mastery. The mind has become a force of nature, a magnet for success, a director of reality. Each morning is a sacred act. Each repetition strengthens the foundation. Each observation, visualization, affirmation, and action reinforces the architecture of the mind. Over weeks and months, the individual transforms. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The distracted become focused. The hesitant become decisive. The fearful become courageous. The passive become unstoppable. This is the psychology of mastery, the architecture of manifestation, the fusion of Hill and Stoicism realized in the daily practice of conscious, deliberate, disciplined mornings. The ultimate lesson is clear. Nothing external grants mastery. Fortune cannot bestow it. Circumstance cannot command it. Luck cannot create it. Mastery is internal, deliberate, and constructed through repetition, discipline, and alignment. Hill describes the invisible mechanism of thought, faith, and action. The Stoics describe the disciplined mind, reason, perception, and emotional sovereignty. Together they reveal a profound truth. The individual who masters desire, reason, emotion, and action becomes unstoppable because internal alignment dictates external reality. Each day you awaken to this truth. Each morning you perform the act that transforms potential into inevitability. Each repetition compounds power. Each victory over doubt, distraction, or fear strengthens the internal machinery of manifestation. Imagination, vision, persistence, emotional discipline, and deliberate action converge. The mind becomes an engine of creation. Life becomes a reflection of internal clarity. Success is no longer a hope, it is inevitable. And so the stage is set. The mind is prepared, the architecture of mastery is constructed, the individual stands at the threshold of unstoppable action, of unshakable resilience, of deliberate manifestation. All that remains is the final step, the act of translating internal mastery into external dominance, of transforming daily ritual into life-altering reality, of stepping fully into the force of the mind, trained, disciplined, and sovereign. Now imagine the first light of dawn spilling into your room, brushing against the contours of reality, as though inviting you to stand, to awaken, to claim what is already yours. This is not metaphor. It is the subtle, relentless call of potential, a summons that greets every man, every woman, every conscious mind that dares to rise above the ordinary. And yet most ignore it. They linger in comfort, drift in distraction, chase ephemeral desires, and surrender the power of the morning to chaos and habit. You, if you are listening, if you are reading, if the fire within you stirs even slightly, are being called to something far greater, to mastery, to sovereignty over your mind, to a life deliberately forged by thought, emotion, and action. The one thing you must do each morning is deceptively simple. Sit, breathe, observe the mind in its untrained turbulence. Feel the desires that burn beneath the surface, but do not let them dictate your calm. Visualize your highest, most vivid vision, the goal that makes your heart race and your mind quiet simultaneously, the purpose so compelling that time seems irrelevant. Affirm it, not desperately, not with uncertainty, but with the calm erosity of one who knows the outcome is inevitable. Observe your emotions, fear, doubt, desire, frustration. Acknowledge them, release them, redirect them. Anchor yourself in reason. Prepare for deliberate, persistent action. This is the ritual. This is the forge. This is the secret path between chaos and creation. Desire without discipline is a wildfire. Discipline without desire is a machine without fuel. Faith without reason is delusion. Reason without faith is paralysis. Action without clarity is noise. The fusion of Hill and Stoicism reconciles these apparent contradictions, producing a force that is quiet yet unstoppable, ferocious yet serene, ambitious yet detached. The individual who awakens each day to this truth does not merely navigate life, he commands it. He becomes the unseen architect of circumstance, the invisible orchestrator of manifestation. Fortune does not follow him, it arrives because the universe aligns with the precision of his internal law. Emotional detachment is the subtle alchemy that transforms desire into action without suffering. Fear is observed, not absorbed. Frustration is acknowledged, not obeyed. Doubt is studied, not feared. The mind becomes a silent general commanding an army of thought and intention, each mental action precise, deliberate, and unstoppable. Hill's principle of emotionalization magnifies this power. Every vivid image, every confident affirmation, every internal rehearsal programs the subconscious to anticipate and generate success. The Stoic principle of detachment ensures clarity, stability, and calm even as the world presses and chaos erupts. Together they create an internal state where manifestation is inevitable, and failure is only a temporary teacher, never a tyrant. The world will challenge you. It will test you with sudden obstacles, with delay, with ridicule, with the collapse of expectation. This is not an exception, it is life. And yet, the disciplined mind, the mind forged daily in the sacred hours of morning mastery, transforms these challenges into leverage. Problems are no longer barriers but opportunities to exercise strategy, creativity, and resilience. The emotional turbulence that enslaves others becomes energy that fuels action. The ordinary is paralyzed. The initiated acts. The ordinary reacts. The unstoppable responds. Every morning act compounds, every day reinforces, every challenge sharpens the edge of sovereignty. Persistence becomes a law of nature. Hill emphasized that the accumulation of effort toward a clearly defined purpose is unstoppable. The Stoics remind us that external circumstance is indifferent. What matters is effort, alignment, and virtue. The fusion is profound. Persistence, when guided by reason and anchored in detachment, produces results that appear miraculous yet are the natural consequence of internal mastery. The mind trained in this way moves through life like a river through stone, unobstructed, inevitable, transformative. Every day compounds strength. Every obstacle reinforces resilience. Every success amplifies clarity. Faith becomes a quiet, omnipresent engine. Hill's law of faith is not blind belief. It is the certainty of what has been imagined, visualized, and emotionally anchored. The Stoics refine it, insisting on calm acceptance of reality and disciplined action regardless of external uncertainty. Together, faith and detachment, P. Reduce a paradoxical power. You act fully, with energy and intensity, yet you remain unshaken by circumstance, unenslaved by outcome. The world may throw disaster, chaos, or deceit, but your inner law, the law forged in the morning, remains intact. You move through life with inevitability, with clarity, with unstoppable force. Imagine now the cumulative effect of this ritual performed relentlessly. Days, months, years of conscious morning mastery. Each repetition is a brick in the fortress of the mind. Each visualization a channel for the subconscious, each affirmation a reinforcement of certainty, each act of discipline a sharpening of the will. Over time, the ordinary mind becomes extraordinary. The distracted become focused, the fearful become courageous, the hesitant become decisive, the weak become unstoppable. You are no longer a passive participant, You are the architect, the conductor, the force through which circumstance is shaped and vision is realized. You may still feel hesitation, resistance, or doubt. It is natural. The mind resists change. Habit clings to comfort. But recognize this: hesitation is the last gatekeeper before transformation. Fear is the whisper before mastery. Doubt is the shadow before clarity. To cross these thresholds, you must act not once, not sporadically, but daily, consistently, and with deliberate intensity. The morning ritual is the mechanism. The mind is the laboratory. The day is the canvas. Your life, when committed to this discipline, becomes a masterpiece of thought, action, and manifestation. The practice is deceptively simple, but simplicity is the ultimate test of discipline. To sit each morning, to breathe, to visualize, to